Hi, Mario.
Hello. Hi, how are you?
Good. Where's everybody?
I don't know. Where are we?
We're in the Gemara. We're in the.
Navi, because I don't know. I seem to have.
I
I,
thought he
I,
said. I thought he said four. Parak four,
the
which would be.
chapter 4, right?
Yeah, I think that's what he texted.
Yeah, but
That makes it page 254.
254.
Let's see what he said in the text.
Yeah,
Um,
I must have missed last week. Today is the 7th of July.
Harold, how are your knees doing?
my knees
Yeah,
recovering.
Up and down the hills.
Oh my God, crazy! So much walking.
Was it hot?
No, it was not hot at all. It was beautiful. The weather was perfect, but there's a lot of walking up and down stairs. One hotel, we wanted to walk down to the beach. It was 880 stairs. 880. I said, okay, we'll stay at the pool.
You got the stairs, Dennis?
I'm not going.
There's good shopping.
Yeah,
I'm still recording too.
and the dollar's strong.
The dollar
The
is
dollar's
strong.
Yeah. And they had every store was 95% off.
So why didn't you buy anything?
I'm just teasing you. It was 95% extra. It was a lot of people, lots of people, lots of Eden too.
Really, you ran into Orthodox Jews.
Yeah, there's a kosher restaurant there, so yeah, people go there because of that. Yeah.
I like your glasses.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
How long is the ride from where you go to get to Capri? How long is that boat ride?
Well, you fly into Naples, so it's very close. It's just a boat ride to Naples.
Like an hour?
Yeah, but then if you drive to the other towns, it's a very windy road, so it takes a long time. It's a very narrow, windy road, and there's buses coming right at you. So you need a professional driver. If you drive yourself, it's like suicide.
Okay. Melochim Beis.
How's the weather going to be in Prague? What did you check?
What? How?
It's cooler in Prague.
But
Oh, it's cooler. Oh.
in Hungary, it's going to be 91, 90.
Oh,
It was supposed to be 5 months ago when I checked, it was like 73, but I don't know.
Oh,
Now it's, I mean, it was supposed to be 73 in July. Now it's 91 in July.
okay.
Okay, so Melochim Beis, Perek Daled. We're going to have a hiatus next week. We will do the Navi Shir the following Sunday because we come back Sunday morning. So we'll do a Navi Shir that night. So just we'll miss 1 week. Perek Daled, Melochim Beis is the Haftorah for Parshas Vayera. And we'll see as we learn through this perek why it was chosen as the Haftorah for Parshas Vayera. The Isha Achat min Shei Bnei Nevi'im, the wife of one of the Nevi'im, we're going to learn that this was the Navi Ovadia. Ovadia was the Navi who, during the reign of Achav the Rasha, provided sustenance for 100 Nevi'im that he hid in caves, because Jezebel, and Achav tried to kill out the Nevi'im, so he hid them and he sustained them. And this is the widow of Ovadia. What did she do? Tzaka el Elisha lemu. She cried out to the Navi Elisha, Avdecha ishi made. Your servant, my husband, died. Ve'ataya data ki avdecha yeres Hashem. You not the Navi Ovadia had a lot of Yiras Shamayim. Ve'anoshe ba, and Ovadia had borrowed money. We'll see soon from who. He had borrowed money in order to sustain the 100 Nevi'im. Lakachas, and I don't have the money to return. In Jewish law, if you don't have money to pay back, you can be sold as an Eved Ivri. So the notion is coming, Lakachas Shnei Ladai Lo Lavodim, and wants to take my 2 children as avodim to pay back the loan. Again, we know that Elisha requested a double portion of Ruach HaKodesh from Eliyahu, his master. And we said Eliyahu had 8 Nisim occur, so we're going to keep track of 16 Nisim that had occurred to Elisha. We said the first one was to come back after Eliyahu Hanavi had been taken up to Shamayim. That was on the east of the Jordan. Getting to the east of the Jordan, Eliyahu had split the Jordan along with Elisha. Now Elisha on his own had split the Jordan on the way back. And Ripo Hamayim, he had sweetened waters. Remember, Yericho had very bad water. They couldn't drink it. And he performed a miracle and sweetened the water. Then there were 2 miracles that children had come out of a town and cursed or made fun of Elisha. And Elisha killed these 42 children by creating a forest with bears. So there were 2 Nisim there. So that brings us to 4. And then the 3 kings, when they were battling Moab, he filled we learned that last week, he filled the valley full of water because they didn't have any water to drink. And now that's 5. And in this perek, we're going to learn about the 6th and then the 7th of the Nisim that Elisha occurred.
Bernie, regarding the widow not having enough money, and therefore by Yoram decided to take the 2 children as avodim, Eved Ivri, there's a problem with that because the halacha says you may not take the children as collateral, but apparently Yoram was already violating the laws of Ribis. He was taking interest, which he shouldn't have been. So this is just, the Medrash Tarchuma says this is just going down a slippery slope and violating more than one halacha.
Correct. We haven't gotten to who was the lender. I haven't mentioned that yet. But Bernie.
Sorry if I preempted you.
Bernie, no, that's good. Bernie began to talk about that. Now, by the way, when we were initially introduced to Avadia, in Melochim Aleph Perek Yud Ches, it said V'Ovadia haya yirei es Hashem me'od. It wasn't just a yirei Hashem; it was yirei es Hashem me'od. We'll see why that's important. Now, as Bernie implied, it was the son of Achav, Yehoram, who was now the king. He was the one that had loaned the money, and he did it with interest. And we're going to see there's a debate. Was Yehoram Jewish or not? Who was Yehoram's mother? Jezebel. And there's a question whether she was Mizgaya or not. We know that there would be a big difference because a goy is allowed to charge interest to a Jew. Now, a Jew is not allowed to pay interest, even to a goy. But the goy can charge the interest. Certainly a Jew cannot.
How's he gonna get around it if he has to pay back?
Now, why did Ovadia agree to pay the interest? You're not allowed to pay interest. So we're going to see it's a matter of pikuach nefesh. Without borrowing the money, he would have had no food and water to give the Nevi'im. Without food and water, what's going to happen to the Nevi'im? They're going to die. Pikuach nefesh is doiche any law in the Torah, except for three: murder, adultery, and avodah zarah. It means if somebody puts a gun at your head and says, bow down to this avodah zarah or I'm going to kill you, so you're supposed to be killed before you worship the avodah zarah. But if there's any other negative prohibition, eat this piece of pig or I'm going to kill you, you're allowed to eat the piece of pig to save your life. So the same thing, there's a negative prohibition to either charge interest or pay interest. But because of pikuach nefesh issues, Ovadia agreed to do it. The Gemara in Baba Kama talked about the daughter of Rav Nechunya ben Akana who was dying of thirst. Now, what was Rav Nechunya ben Akana's job? He dug wells so that the Ole Regalim, the Jews who would go up to Yerushalayim, would have water. Like, it sounds like the shoemaker whose children don't have shoes. So how could the daughter of Nechunya ben Akanya suffer from the very thing that, that he provided chesed for other people? And this similar thing happening here, where Ovadia, the Navi, went out of his way to feed the Nevi'im, and here his wife is going to take away his children.
So the question is the zechus of the miracle that Elisha is performing based upon the mitzvahs that Ovadia performed or that his wife performed after he died, and she left basically penniless.
Right now, the wife is just the widow of Ovadia. We don't know of any zechuyos or any special things that the wife has done. She's the widow of Ovadia. Now Hashem says, I protect almanas and I protect Yisomim. So perhaps Elisha is performing the miracle for Ovadia's almana falls under that rubric. And it clearly may be a reward for all of the mitzvahs that Ovadia did. By the way, the Tosefta brings that there were 4 people that were called Yirei Hashem: Avram, Yosef, Iyuv, and Ovadia. And the only one in who it was said Yirei Hashem Ma'od is Ovadia. Just something to keep in mind. We talked about pikuach nefesh. Pasuk beis. Vayomer elei Elisha maya sela. So Elisha asks the woman, "What can I do for you?" Hagidili, tell me. Mayesh lach babois. What do you have in the house? Vatomer. She responds, Ein l'shivchascha kol babois, ki im asuch shaman. I have a very small oil dispenser that has enough maybe for a finger of oil. So number one, is there anything that Elisha could do for her Alpidin. And this is Alpidin, he didn't have an answer. But maybe I can provide a bracha for you. And then you can pay the debt through the bracha. Now, Ovadia, besides giving the Nevi'im food and drink, he would also light candles for them with shemen at night. And again, perhaps it's a simon as well to Chachma, Torah. They allowed them to study Torah. Okay. Now, he is going to instruct her that this miracle is going to flow through this little vessel of shemen. Now, why the Meforshim try to understand, why can't he just create shemen? Why does it have to start from something? He had to have this vessel to at least start off the nace. Or you could ask another question. Why do the nace with shemen? Just give her money. Make gold appear so she can pay off her debt. So the Ran, in his Drosha Saran, says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to keep the natural law as always. Chafetz Hashem Yitbarach U'Ritzon L'Kayim Minhago Shel Alom B'chol Ma De'efshar. Yes, Hashem sometimes has to go beyond nature. Normally, the Yam Suf doesn't split. You have to split the Yam Suf. But whenever he can, the Teva is Yakar Be'einav, says the Ran. Nature, natural processes, biochemistry, chemistry, biology. This is very precious to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And he doesn't want to change the normal pattern and flow of nature unless he has to. He will. Like Moshe Rabbeinu, when the people wanted to eat meat, and he said, I could shecht tzon ubakar, we're never going to have enough. So he had to bring slop, but it was done through some kind of natural means. So he mixes in a dvar pele, right, a wondrous thing, with something natural. So this asuk shemen is that which he's going to rely on, that it's not going to be yesh me'ayin. It's not going to be he's going to create something out of nothing. He's going to rely a little bit on teva. Tzvi, we are in Melochim Beis, Perek Dalid, Pasuk Beis.
Thank you.
Bernie, may I add something?
Please.
The Zohar also talks about shemen as being something davar b'sheva kedusha, because it is used to anoint the kohanim and the melech, and therefore even a small amount of oil is sufficient to receive a bracha.
Very good. Okay. In fact, coming off of Bernie's comment, there's a famous question about Chanukah, the Shaila of the Beis Yosef. What is this Shaila? The Beis Yosef, the commentary on the tour says, why did they establish 8 days of Chanukah? They had enough oil for 1 day. So there should have been 7 days of Nes. That's the Shaila of the Beis Yosef. So the Taz answers that based on this Zohar that Bernie just quoted, that even on the first night, there was a Nes. Each amount of oil that was put in there burned longer. It already existed. So every day, even on the first night, the Nes had to have something physical to rely on. And there was a little bit left from that oil that was involved in nace, based on the way we're learning. So there is a small vessel of oil that she has, and Elisha tells her, "Vayomer l'chi shali lach kelim min hachutz." Go and borrow a lot of empty kelim, me'ez kol shchenayich, from your neighbors. Kelim rekim al tamiti. Empty kelim. Don't have small amount, have a large amount. The idea being, she's going to pour from this asuch shemen, from this vial of oil, and as long as she has empty kelim to pour into, the oil is going to fill up these kelim. So get kelim from far, get kelim from close. And the Radak says, when it says kelim rekim, even broken kelim. And the Malbim explains that this asuch shemen is going to be like a spring. And the oil will flow from there into the empty kelim. The empty kelim, she has to be prepared to be makabel bracha. And so much oil will come out that she'll be able to sell the oil and pay off her debt. The Ralbag says the nace was even greater, that even the air that was in the asuch shemen turned into oil. That's they're like, he says, like the mate in Mitzrayim turned into a snake. But most learn it's just whatever little shemen was in there didn't end. It continued to flow. As long as there were empty kelim to receive from the vial. Pasuk Dalet. Yes.
The reason isn't it that he wants her to pay her debts through an oil?
Yes, we started off the perek that this is the widow of Ovadia, and Ovadia had borrowed a lot of money with ribis from Yehoram, the son of Achat, and now the Malva, the lender one, is collecting, and she has no money to pay, and they're going to sell her 2 children as avodim. So Elisha shows up and is going to perform a miracle for this woman through this asuch shemen, where by filling up all these kelim with shemen, she'll be able to sell the shemen to pay off the debt.
There isn't any specific why shemen and not, you can make her rich with other means.
So we asked that question. So number one, Ovadia, the Navi, his chus was, he kept 100 Nevi'im alive, 50 in one cave, 50 in another cave. And he brought food to them, and also he lit their cave with shemen to keep, so that they could read, they could study, maybe we could learn Ruach HaKodesh, Chochmah, all of that. So there is a connection to the shemen that was in Ovadia's house and is now being used by the widow.
Thank you.
Now, Pasuk Dal. Uvat v'sagarta delech badeich uva'ad bonaich. Interesting, she's told to close the door of her house, so only her and her children are there. V'yatzakt al kol ha'kelim ha'ela, pour from this vial into all these empty kelim. V'hamalei tasi, and then the full ones you'll take and sell. Or remove, once it fills, move it and put another kli underneath where she is. She's not supposed to move. We'll see what the Gedorim were. She stays where she is. She fills the first kli, then they take that full kli away. Then they bring another empty kli, vahala, vahala. Interesting. Rashi and Malbim, why do they close the door? Because bracha comes with tznius. that there shouldn't be ayin hara, and that somebody shouldn't come in who's not roy, that through his maisim, the Malbim says, Yufsak Tzinor Kashefa. There's a pipe of bracha coming down from Shammai. And if someone who's not roy to receive that, it'll break the pipe. It'll break the flow, says the Malbim.
Another interpretation that's given is because this is Lamalam and Ateva, they were not allowed to let anybody else see it, since God was before it was a miracle. It has to be hidden. Yeah.
Just like we also say, bracha comes from something that is samui mina ayin, meaning the person should always be counting his money. That's not good. Bracha will come when you're oblivious, when you're ignorant. You don't know exactly. That's when bracha comes. When you know, the bracha is not going to come there. That may have something to do with this as well. So she's supposed to not move from her place. She's supposed to hold this asuch. Because once the nace starts, it continues only in that makom. Again, because they don't want this kiluach to be mafsik, this flow to stop. The Malbim says very clearly, she shouldn't move. When a bracha starts, it's going to start in a certain place. The spring of oil opened up, and if she moves, it's going to stop. And the sons are bringing the kelim to her, because we said we don't want her to move. And she has to keep the asuch shemen with its mouth pointing downwards until the nace finishes. B'li hefsek. And that's why only the kelim that they physically had there, once the nace started, there couldn't be any more kelim. So, vatelech me'ito. So she left, and she borrowed kelim from far and from her neighbors, brought them in. Vatizgora delet ba'adat, she closed the door. Va'ad banea, heim magishim eleh, like we said, she has to stand where she is. They bring the kelim to her. Vihi mutzaket, and she's pouring from the asuch shemen into the empty kelim. Pasuk vav. Vayi kimlota kelim. Whatever kelim were there got filled. Vatomer el bina agisha lai od keli, and she told her son, "Bring me more kelim." Vayomer eleha ein od keli, no more kelim. Vayamod ashamen, and then the shemen stops flowing. Some say that when she said, "Bring me od keli," the Radak, in the name of the Medrash, says, even bring broken kelim of like shards of clay. Because like the Medrash says, Misha gozer al kelim rekonim sheismalu, yigzer al kelim shvurim sheitoknu. Hashem, who's gozer that these empty kelim should fill, will be gozer that even broken kelim will be fixed and filled. And then even the broken kelim filled up. And then when she said, Ein od keli, meaning there isn't even any broken kelim, then it stopped. Posuk Zayin. Vatavo vataged li Elohim. So Elisha was told that it's not flowing anymore. And then, Vayomer, Lechi Mechkriyat HaShemen. Elisha tells her, sell the shemen. Vishalmi es nishyech, and pay back your lender. V'at uvanayich tichya b'noisar. You and your sons will live with the extra. The pshat is, she went to ask an eitzah. Should I sell the oil right away? Maybe by waiting, the price will go up. She didn't want to do anything without the eitzah of the Navi. So Elisha, through Ruach HaKodesh or Chochmah, understood that there was enough to pay off her debts and the ribbis with what she had then.
The Me'am Lo'ez has a twist on it. He says, no, you understand it's the problem of supply and demand. That's what she understood. You flood the market with too much shem and the price goes down and she wouldn't be able to pay off her debt. That's
Nice.
what she was asking the Navi.
Beautiful.
And she said, don't worry, she'll get full price.
Beautiful. The Navi already understood Adam Smith and the various laws of capitalism, of supply and demand. Beautiful. Now, some ask, how did Elisha advise to pay back, including the ribbis? It's usher for a Jew to pay ribbis. It's not just usher to charge ribbis. It's usher to pay ribbis. So some want to say, since if she doesn't pay, the children will be taken as avodim, it's like pidyon shvuyim. And it's not really considered ribbis. It's not everyone agrees with that. But
Yeah, there's an alternate shot that says that's why she filled her neighbor's vessels, because her vessels, just like her home, was spoiled by the Ovadia paying ribbis. Therefore, she had to use other people's vessels to fill them with oil.
why would that solve the problem? Remember, what's happening now is she's selling the oil that was filled up in all these vessels, and she's paying back the debt. The debt was the principal plus the ribbis. I'm not sure how that solves that. I understand the pshat that since we don't want the children to go as avodim, it's like pidyon shvui. But in a chanami, it's a problem for some of the meforshim. The Medrash Rabbah says that up until now, what she had was not enough to pay off the debt. B'teva. Because it was a huge amount to provide food and sustenance for 100 Nevi'im during the famine. But so Elisha made an additional nace, says the Al-Shich, that the Shemin didn't stop. Like Eliyahu had done previously to also add shemen to a person's house, like La Ishat Sorfat Ki Chomar Shemen Lokei Yisrael Kara Kemach Lo Tichle V'Tzapachad Shemen Lo Techzar Ad Yom Teser Shem HaGeshem. So he also, that the nace would continue. But some say there was enough. From the Tosefta, the Radak brings that she also asked Elisha, does she have to give Meiser from all of the shemen that was created? So Elisha said that her husband had nourished all the Nevi Hashem with something that there was no chi of Meiser. Now, the Meforshim don't really understand what that means. There are some things that you don't have to give Meiser on, mushrooms, etc. But so she is not Eina Tzricha Laser Shemasa Nisim Zeh. And you don't have to give Meiser on Meiser Nisim. So she asked, the Medrash says further, the Radak brings from the Tosefta, what if the sons of Achav hear about this and they're going to steal the shemen? Elisha responded, Misha Sagar Piyosem Shel Kalbe Mitzrayim, Shlo Chartzu L'Shonam. The night of Pesach Mitzrayim, Hashem closed the mouths of the dogs so they wouldn't bark, and he closed the mouths of the lions when Daniel was thrown into the lion's den. he will close the eyes and ears of the Bnei Achab and won't cause her any problems. Now, others ask if it's true that Shemen Shel Nes, you don't have to give Meiser on, then why did he have to go into the story that Ovadia had provided nourishment for the Nevi'im with something that didn't require Meiser either? It's irrelevant. Why Mida Keneged Mida? If the Shemen Shel Nes doesn't require Meiser, that's enough. Yeah, but the wife asked, since it's the whole Nes started with a little shtickle of Shemen that we said that was left from her husband, the natural Shemen, maybe that there was Chayiv Meiser, so maybe that's why they had to be given that answer. And again, here, Rav Chaim Brisker gives the same answer to the question about Hanukkah. Why do we have 8? So he says that they put 1/8 of the amount every day. So every day, because it was not Shemen TV, it was Shemen Shel Nes. So there's no kasha of the Beis Yosef, there was a Nes every day. So we said before that this famous parak we're learning is the Haftorah of Parshas Vayera. Now you notice there's going to be 2 parts to this parak. We're not going to get to both parts. We'll get to part of it. One is this story of the widow of Ovadia. The other is the famous story of the Isha HaShunamit, the great woman of Shunam, who can't have children. And she was the great Balachsanya, the great Haknosis Orchim master, who created a special place for Elisha to stay when he traveled. And based on that, she was granted a child through a nes. The question is, it's a very long Haftorah. Now we understand why this was chosen then for Parshas Vayera. What happens in Parshas Vayera? The Melochim come and give the good news that Avram and Sarah are going to have a child, Yitzchak. And then the 3 guests come, there were Malachim. So we understand very well, just like Sarah, who is beyond childbirth, she's 90 years old. The special nes is made and she has a child. So the story of the Isha Shunamit is parallel. But what does this story of the Eishes Ovadyahu at the beginning of the Perek, l'chora, they have nothing to do with anything. Maybe you should start, we see many Haftorahs, it starts in the middle of the Perek. It doesn't always start the beginning of the Perek. It should have started with the story of the Isha Shunamit. Why does it start here? So Rav Shimon Schwab answers. It has to do with, remember we said that Ovadia is a Yiras Hashem, Ad Ma'od. And I mentioned there were 4 people who are called in Tanakh Yirei Hashem. One of them, of course, is Avram Avinu. It says, Ki ata yadati, ki yirei Elokim ata, v'lo chasachta es pinchas yichidecha mimeni. After the Akedah, Hashem tells Avram, now I know you're a Yirei Elokim. So the fact that here, the wife of Ovadia says to Elisha, right, V'ata yadata ki avdecha ya Yirei Hashem. So the Haftorah fits, even the beginning part of the Haftorah fits with Parshas Vayera. Pasuk Ches. Right? Now we move away from the story of Ovadia's widow, Vayi Ayom Vayavor Elisha El Shunem. Elisha is traveling, and he comes to the city of Shunem. We'll see it's in Shevet Yisachar. V'sham Isha Gdola. There's an important woman there. V'tachazek bo lecho lechem. She impressed on him to eat bread by her. Vayhi midei avro yasur sham lecho lechem. And not only that, on many occasions, when he would come by, she would make sure that she would be the achsanya, that Elisha would be able to eat at her house. This is going to be the seventh nace, right? Up until now was the sixth nace. This seventh nace will be that she's been an akara all her life, not being able to have children, and then Elisha's going to be provide a child. Later on in this perek, the child will die. And famously, Elisha will resuscitate the child, which is exactly what Eliyahu Navi did as well. So Elisha, but it's Pishnayim, because like we said, Eliyahu did 8 nisim, and Elisha is going to do 60. So Elisha traveled the country from place to place, says the Das HaSofet. Like who? Like Shmuel HaNavi. Do you remember when we studied Shmuel HaNavi? He also would travel from place to place. Shunem was in Chelik Yisachar. And in your Perek Yud Tes of Sefer Yoshua, Pasuk Yud Ches, it says, V'sham isha gdola chashuva. That there was a great woman there, referring to this Isha Shunamit. The Yirat Chet, who had Yiras Chet, Shena'aga betovas ayin v'chesed. Zohar says she did everything with a good eye. Who was her? Achotah shel Avishag Shunamit. If you remember, in Melochim Aleph, Perek Aleph, David HaMelech was old. He was cold. They needed to find a young woman who would warm him up. Who was the woman? Avishag Shunamit, who is this woman's sister, or some say her mother. Some say Ishto shel Ido Hanavi. We had Ido Hanavi in Melochim Aleph. Maybe this is the wife of Ido Hanavi. Vatechzek bo lecho lecha. And the Isha Shunamit always wanted to provide achnosas orchim. This is even prior to the rest of Klal Yisrael knowing who Elisha was. But her general approach was to do achnosas orchim. Any new person came to the city, she brought them in. Now, where's her husband in all of this? We talk about the Isha Shunamit. Where's her husband? It seems from all these stories, it was just her doing the achnosas orchim. She prepared. The husband didn't get involved. Why? He was studying Torah because he's Ido Hanavi. Now, it's not so pashut that tzaddikim would accept gifts from people. Like it says in Brachas Yudam Beis, On Rabbi Bitem Rav Yitzchak, Harotze lehenos, Mishel Acherim, Yena. There's no Isser, Rashi says. And where's the proof? Ke Elisha. Like we see that Elisha did not refuse to accept to be given benefit. Well, if somebody doesn't want to accept gifts, you don't have to. Shmuel Aramasi. Shmuel was someone who did not want to accept gifts. Because remember it says, Uchuvasor Amaso Kisham Beso. He took everything he needed with him. So Shmuel didn't need Achnos Orchim, Shmuel was one of these people. The Gemara says, or it's a pasuk. Soine matnos yichya. Whoever hates to receive gifts lives long. So then the Gemara is now puzzled. The Marsha actually asks over there in Brachos Yud on the base, how is it mutter to do like Elisha? You don't, so you can have an approach that you don't want to benefit from other people. But here there's a mitzvah of achnosis orchim, which is for both wealthy people and not wealthy people. So it's for everybody. When somebody's traveling, he doesn't have anything with him, so he's like an oni. Then, of course, you can benefit from other people for the oreach. And only on that level did Elisha benefit. That's how the Marsha explains. The Rambam in Avos says, Af she'asur l'tamid chacham lisparnas ma'acherim. No, a Talmid Chacham shouldn't accept gifts from other people. And there's no proof me'elisha. Shlo bikesh lo kibel ma'acherim, or kibel kavod. This is a respect for him. His achsein etzel misha over etzlo. He accepted achnosos orchim. And Rabbeinu Yonah says even further that a Talmid Chacham muter la'anos mimisha rotz la'atil lekisha Talmid Chacham sheschar meruba, right? Like Yisachar Zvulun relationships. You're allowed to be mahane a Talmid Chacham to make it easy for him to study Torah.
Ernie, isn't that the custom has gone down through the generations in the old shtetl, where there was yeshiva, people would put up or feed the Talmidim?
Right? Teg, Essen Teg. They would call day, Teg. They would eat Monday by this balabos and Tuesday by this balabos. And Echrami, based on these Rabbeinu Yonahs, these heterim to do it. And the Malbim points out, Elisha just didn't accept Hano from anybody. If somebody, they have to be Roy. Like Chazal say in Brachas, Haroy Tzilanus Yenek Elisha. Omrav Pinchas ben Yor LeRebbe. Dehu Eino Nenemi Kolodom. He doesn't benefit from people. El Yisrael Kedoshim Ein. Sheyesh Lo Ve'ena Rotze. He doesn't want to, but Yesh Rotze Ve'ein Lo. Al Ata Rotze Ve'yesh Lecha. You want to give, you Rebbe have to give, and you want to give. So there's no problem. And therefore, Elisha is the same thing. She was a wealthy woman. She could give. And he wanted to, so there was mutual haskama. Now, you notice the pasuk starts out Vayihi Hayom. Vayihi Hayom. So the Taz in Or Chaim brings the Beis Yosef. Sheyesh oimim shetzarach lisanis b'Rosh Hashanah. That Rosh Hashanah comes, you have to fast. But there's other sources that say, no, you should eat. Says the Taz, the EF Shalom mitzvah lisanis. We cannot say that it's a mitzvah to fast on Rosh Hashanah. The Matzinu Gabi Elisha, Sha'achal Eitzel HaShunamis. Listen carefully, V'osu Hayom Rosh Hashanah Haya. Because it says, Vayi Hayom. Like it says, Atem Nitzavim Hayom Kulchem. Everybody learns Pshat. Hayom there referred to Rosh Hashanah. Every time it says Hayom, with Hey Ayidiyah, the day, it refers to Rosh Hashanah. That the Os in Medrash says Os Hayom Rosh Hashanah Haya, and therefore it's clear that you shouldn't fast on Rosh Hashanah because Elisha was eating on Rosh Hashanah.
Is Vayei is Loshen Tzar?
Vayhi bimei Achashverosh.
Oh, Vayhi.
Vayhi bimei. Vayhi bimei. In Masechta Megillah, we learn the sugya there. That's correct. Some hold that anytime it says Vayhi, it's Vai, Lashon Vai. But then we bring many sources where it says Vayhi, and it's a good thing. So the Gemara there ended up saying whenever it says Vayhi bimei, that's always a sign of a bad thing coming. Pasuk Tes. Vatomer Elisha. So now the Isha Shurami talks to her husband and says, Hinenaya dati ki ish Elokim kadoshu. This holy man, this man of God is holy. And over aleinu tamid, he comes by our house frequently. And so we're going to see that the wife, let's read the second pasuk so we'll understand in better context. Pasuk Yud. Nasena aliyat kir ktana. Let's build an add-on, second story, an annex. V'nasim lo sham. Let's put there mita, a bed, shulchan, a table, kisei, a chair, menorah, a candelabra. V'hayat b'vo'o elenu yasur shama. When Elisha comes, he'll have his private domain. So let's go back to analyze Pasuk Tes. That I've sensed that this man is Kadosh. It's ve'ein min haroy lashevet itanu yachad. He shouldn't just sit with us together.
Pros and cons of bootstrapping in 30 seconds or less. Bootstrapping is when you.
So we should create a place for him, a private place. Says the Gemara in Brachos Yud Amud Beis. In Vatomer Elisha hinei yadati ki ish Elohim kadoshu. Rab Yosef Rab Chanina mikan she'ha'isha makeres ba'orchin yoser min ha'ish. The wife can detect the nature of a guest more than the husband. When the Gemara says kadoshu, that the wife said he's a kadosh, mena yada. How did the Isha Shlamit know that he was kadosh? So Rav Ushmua, Machlokes, Rav Ushmua. Chad amar shelo rasa zvuv over al shulchano. She saw that when he sat and ate his meal, there was no flies flying around. Just like the Maharsha says in the Beis Hamikdash, lo nira zvuv bebeis hamidbachayim, that no fly was ever seen even in the butcher place in the Beis Hamikdash, because it's a makam kadosh. So too, by this Adam Kadosh, there were no flies around him. The Chad Amar, right, Rav Shmuel, we don't know who said which. One said there was no flies. The Chad Amar Sadin shel pishtan itzi al mitoso v'lo rosa keri alav. She would always make his bed, change the sheets, and he never saw, there were never any similarly mission on the sheets. So he was an Ish Kadosh. He controlled himself. I want to bring a story that Rav Chaim Kanievsky would say that Rav Chaim Shmulevitz, the great mashgiach of the Mir Yeshiva, I was zocha to meet Rav Chaim Shmulevitz. My best friend, Alan Berkowitz, one of my best friends, Alan Berkowitz, in 1977, I was doing research at Hadassah Hospital for the summer. And I would spend a lot of Shabbosim with Alan, who was studying the Mir Yeshiva. And Rav Chaim Shmulevitz was alive. And I would listen to him and met him, said good Shabbos to him many times. So Rav Chaim Shmulevitz says, fine. the wife did not see any flies buzzing around Elisha. But how did the flies know that he was an Ish Kadosh? You hear the question? Fine. There were no flies there. How do the flies know that this is an Ish Kadosh? So Rav Chaim Kanievsky answered, no. Rav Chaim Shmulevitz asked the question, which apparently nobody had ever answered. So Rav Chaim Kanievsky answered, Balei Chayim Margishim B'Kedusha. Animals experience Kedusha. He brings a source in Masechta Sota Lamed Ches Amud Aleph, Ki afilu ofos makirin b'tzarei ayin. Birds can detect if somebody's a cheapskate and doesn't give tzedakah. Then there's a Gemara in Brachos, same Gemara in Brachos Yud Amud Beis, when it says Kadosh Hu, Am Rabbi Yosef Bechani Hu Kadosh, U'Misharso Eina Kadosh. Elisha has a famous Misharis, an assistant, Gechazi. And later on it says, Vayigash Gechazi lahadfa. Gechazi came and pushed her away. And we'll see, he was not an Ish Kadosh, he was Prutza Barayas. And she was able to detect that as well. He was somebody who was not a Kadosh, he was somebody who did get involved in immorality. Prutza Ba'arayot, that is not controlled when it comes to immorality.
Interesting that Elisha didn't notice.
Didn't notice about Gechazi?
Yeah.
Okay, that's going to be a whole limud, how we're going to resolve if Gechazi had chesroinos, how could Elisha choose him as the Mishares?
Yeah.
Okay, good question, which we will address. You know what? I am going to stop here because we have a whole sugya here about yichud with one man versus two men. It's involved, and this is a good place to stop. We dealt primarily with the Almana and of Ovadia in this year, and we began the Isha Shunamit story. So again, Susie and I are traveling to Budapest and Prague and Vienna this week for 10 days. So I will give the shiur when we come back Sunday night, not next Sunday, but the following Sunday. Okay, 2 weeks from tonight, we will have a shiur, but not next Sunday. Anybody have any more comments they want to make about tonight's shiur?
Have a wonderful trip.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good week.
Have a good week.
Enjoy your trip.
Thank you.
Travel